Hello there, everybody. Welcome along to EFL Debate, another episode of my summer deep dives. I'm covering all 72 clubs across the EFL between mid-June and mid-July. There's already been some uploaded to YouTube and Spotify, so go check those out. As for this one, I'm delighted we're covering Barnsley, and who better to discuss them than the boys at Red All Over. I'm delighted to be joined by Joe Beardsall and Andy Symcox. How are you, fellas?
Very good, thanks, Gabe. Not to talk about really at Barnsley, so it'd be nice and chill. Quick, this win it, Andy.
Yeah,
be easy.
Very smooth, I'm sure. I mean, we probably will touch on the Michael Duff rumours that he's sort of expected to move on, but I feel like it's worthwhile just having one more time just to reflect on last season and the progress Barnsley made. Coming to you on that, Joe, it must be a really memorable season for all the Reds out there.
Yeah, I mean, considering where we were the previous season, it's a massive improvement. Obviously, where we were, we'd really struggled. One of the worst seasons I'd had as a Barnsley fan. I know, Andy, you'll say there's probably been worse, but for me, it was probably the worst. To then go into this season, rebuilt. Obviously, the team. There was changes at boardroom level, Michael Duff coming in, and everybody just did a fantastic job of giving us a real chance at bouncing back at the first sort of opportunity. Obviously, just fell short in that final. It was agonising in the 123rd minute, Wednesday beating us. Don't want to talk about that for too long. But all in all, there's been a lot of progress made. Obviously, now it's a case of, well, can we continue that? We know how quick football can change. So it all feels a lot rosier than it did. But then this last sort of week's maybe put a bit of a dampener on it with Michael Duff potentially leaving. We're going to say possibly leaving at this point. So, yeah.
Yeah, it would be a tough one to take, Andy, wouldn't it, losing Michael Duff? Because Barnsley haven't had a manager, the same manager start consecutive seasons for quite some time now. I think it was Simon Davey, the last one. So, and that's going back quite a while. So talk to us about, how would you be quite disappointed to see Duff leave at this juncture?
Of course. We had a debacle season last year. And we all know that two managers, interim in between, it was really poor. Whereas the start of this season, Michael Duff came in. It took a while to sign him up. Well, we signed him up, and the difference he's made has been immense. The new board and Michael between them, it's been absolutely magnificent. The difference, from being on our knees and fans wanting to stay away to this present time, with 9,000 season tickets being sold. Whether they'll stay at 9,000 at the minute, I don't know. But who knows? Now, so the difference from everybody's face being on the floor to now throughout the season, building bit by bit. There were some blips along the way, some poor displays, some poor, but the vast majority, we were outstanding. We played some lovely football, some proper football. So and a lot of that, as well as the board, the new board, a lot of that's down to Michael. And so, if he leaves, then you've got to say that it's disappointing. I sincerely hope he doesn't. But I've supported the football club for 65 years. So yeah, there've been worse seasons than last year. There's been worse. I have seen worse seasons. I started when I would have said started when I was 4. I started when I was minus 24. No, I started when I was 4. And there's been some poor seasons. There's been some great managers, some great players. And Michael was, Joe and I have sat and talked to him, and he showed what a smashing bloke he is, as well as a manager of a football club. Is a really, really good man. And, they're not always easy to find. So I'd be very, very disappointed. But, I still support my football club. But as Joe said, it takes the shine off, doesn't it? It's forced to do. We got so far, it just takes the shine off it.
Yeah, I think you've kind of, as a football fan, you've kind of got to look at this from two perspectives, Joe, which is, on the one hand, I don't think Barnsley fans are naive enough to think that management isn't a serious career for managers in the way that we each have our own different careers, and that in those careers you always want to take the best opportunity for yourself and for your family, and I do really get that. But I also think that maybe from a Barnsley perspective, there's probably part of you maybe thinking, could we have achieved something? Could we have sort of close that chapter, if you like, and maybe won promotion next season, or maybe had a year in the Championship after that, rather than going at this point? Is there a part of you feeling that at the moment?
Oh, mate, 100%. I mean, if you take the red tinted glasses off and you're just looking at it from a football point of view, from Michael Duff, like Andy says, been fantastic this season. From his personal point of view, totally understandable if he goes to Swansea. I mean, I've spoken to managers in the past who have told me about, like player wages, the difference between player manager wages, League One to Championship. You're talking about possibly, I don't know what the details is, by the way, but you might be talking about doubling your wage. Let's just say something like that. So you can understand from a point of view of, the impact that's going to have on you and your family, and the ambition as well, to just so that's the money side, but there's also the ambition of being able to play at a higher level, manage at a higher level, get to the top as quick as you can. It is understandable if he chooses to go to Swansea. But then putting the red tinted glasses back on, I can't hide my frustration. I can't hide the fact that I am absolutely gutted if this does happen. It hasn't officially happened yet, but it obviously looks like he's strongly rumoured. I think particularly because we spoke a lot, and Gabe, you've known us for a while. We spoke a lot about the season before last. We mentioned there about how tough it was. And for Barnsley fans, we've been hurt a lot with this in terms of we get a good guy in, he does a great job, he starts to build something, and then he leaves. And I know that there'll be many, many fans from other football clubs watching this saying, yeah, we've been there as well. And you'll feel our pain. So hopefully, fingers crossed, a bit of sympathy. You never know. It's just, you might get a little bit. But yeah, so I think that's the thing for me, is it's frustrating because what Barnsley need more than anything is stability. And when Michael Duff came in, he talked about, obviously we had the board changes, and then there was talk from Michael Duff around, not wanting to be here for 5 minutes, wanting to stay for a little bit of a project. And like you said, I just hoped he would stay till he could get us over that line of back to the Championship. And I know things change, and I know it's easier to say that when you just come into a job than,
Sure.
if there's then offers on the table when you've achieved. So I'm not being too overcritical, but it is massively disappointing if he chooses to go to Swansea for me. Just because I think that if he'd have stayed, I genuinely believe he would have got us promoted next season in first place, because I think he's that good of a manager. And I also think that we wouldn't have lost too many players, but it is what it is. I wish him all the best if he does go, as much as it hurts me. But we need to be ready, and we need to be on the recruitment straight away. I'm hoping that just like Swansea are with Russell Martin going to Southampton and already talking about Michael Duff, I'm hoping that Barnsley are doing the same sort of stuff in terms of let's be finding the next person and make sure it's the right character for Barnsley.
Joe mentioned there, Andy, the word stability, and one of my sort of biggest beliefs is that you can't really rely on one person for stability at a football club, because one person is always individual minded, in the sense, everyone in the world's individual minded to some degree. So the idea of relying on one person, I think, is dangerous in any organisation, let alone football. So that sort of brings me to the point of the structure at Barnsley. I think last season we don't, from my point of view, we don't know how good the structure itself was, because you had a manager in Michael Duff who was that good. So how confident are you that you've got a structure in place that can hold strong even in this time of change?
Well, it's what you need, isn't it? I mean, I thought that this season we'd started putting a structure together ready for the future. It's coming a hell of a lot quicker than I thought, and I'm very disappointed in that. What really disappoints me, or really upsets me, so thanks for bringing it up, that the last time we had a manager for 2 seasons was Simon Davey, because that's a long time and that didn't end well. I'm going to start crying in a minute, Gabe. It'll only be 1 tier, but it'll be a big one. So thank you for that. I'm going back to my alter ego anyway. How about that? That's where I think of it all.
Wednesday fans suddenly recognise you, Andy.
I know. Bless them all. Well, I don't think they'll be crowing much about the potential of Michael Duff going, will they? I don't think Wednesday will be crowing about it, but who knows? We'll see, won't we? No, it's really, really disappointing. And we thought a few seasons ago that we got a nice structure in place, so that if a manager moved on, there'd be a backup there, and it'd just gradually evolve. And then we had a chairman that thought he were a chief executive, or a chairman that thought he were wherever he thought he was. That's literally blown it out the water. So we started again this season, and we've got some decent coaches behind Michael. Sincerely hope he stops, but there's some decent coaches behind him. Might be a little bit inexperienced at this stage, but they are there. You know, we've got a few. We've got Martin Pattison, whether he'll stay or whether he'll go with Michael or not. Oh, if he goes, who knows? We've got Martin Devaney, and Nicky Eden as well, who's come back into the fold. And
well, he's really, a bit of a town legend, isn't he?
He's a star. Well, it'd be a legend for you and all, wouldn't it? For Birmingham City and all. So he went to your, didn't he?
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember. He played in that 4-0 drubbing that you got in playoffs. I don't know if you remember that.
I had to mention it, didn't he, Gabe?
Luckily, I'm a bit too young for that one.
Let me talk you through it. 2000 Championship playoff semi-finals. Barnsley against Birmingham. First one at St Andrews. 4-0 drubbing. You won 2-1 in the home leg, but it didn't matter. 4-0. It's fair to say we didn't do a Peterborough. 4-0 drubbing. So, we then lost it.
You've given us a few tonkings at St Andrews, Andy. I try to try to wash my mind of it, really.
To be honest, we've got to be in the same division to do it at the minute. So I've got to be fair about that. You are in a higher division currently. Hopefully we'll join you rather than you joining us. But yeah, we need that stability, and I hope we get it. It's very, very disappointing because we thought we got it. We thought I'm just assuming that he's leaving. I don't want to assume that because maybe he won't. Maybe I don't think it's a done deal. Whatever everybody else says, it's not a done deal until it's done. I sincerely hope he stays, but there was a structure there behind him that's been working really well this season. So hopefully that can continue with stability, because goodness knows we need it. We can't keep sacking managers because they're rubbish and losing managers because they're good. It's just not the way to do it.
That's basically the cycle at the minute, isn't it, Andy? And that's the frustration from fans.
But then I sort of think that's kind of the case for everyone, because I think what's been created in English football over the last 20 years or so is a certain level of ruthlessness, which I think has mainly come from clubs. But then I think off the back of that, managers haven't really felt secure because they think that if they don't do as well the following season, they're going to be in trouble because they're not going to get that grace period during tough times. And therefore they feel like they need to make that step up. So really, Joe, the way forward, in my opinion, is making sure that you've got the right structure. So what do you make of the progress that's been made over the last 12 months in that area?
I think there has been progress made. And I think that I understand that, when something like this happens, because we all appreciate Michael Duff and the incredible job he's done this last season, it's easy to go, right, okay, we're starting from scratch again and feel very down in the dumps, which we all do. But actually, no, I do think there has been progress made. The communication between fans and the club has been so much different. It's, completely different to the season before. The likes of, Julian, Q's been fantastic for me, really connected with the fan base. Khalid, the CEO's done more, and Nirav as well. So I think there has been a lot of progress made. Obviously, it's a massive test for them now going into this summer, particularly if they lose Michael Duff. I'm not of the thing of massively criticising them at this point because, one, we don't know if Michael Duff's going. And if he does go, I assume there's going to be release clauses and things like that, which is just standard. Like you say, managers have got to protect themselves as well in terms of their side. It's like you say, it's ruthless. They can quickly get sacked. And, we're sat here and I've just said that I think, if Michael Duff stays at Barnsley, he'll get us promoted next season. But, there's another argument that lose 5 games at the start of the season, things could quickly change. And that is how it is in this game. And we know it can quickly change in football. So I do understand at the same time trying to take your opportunities when they come along. So, yeah, I think Barnsley have made progress. It's going to be really key to see who comes in if Michael Duff leaves. That's going to be huge. It's the right character for Barnsley. And what I mean by that is someone that's going to get the fan base straight on board, get us all continuing to move in that right direction. It's just the stability is really hard because, like you say, as soon as someone does well, you can't compete with the championship finances and obviously that bigger league. We needed to get promoted, really. And hopefully we can do it next season. And then, we might have more chance if we can stay in the Championship. Until Barnsley are back in the Championship and staying in the Championship, I think it's going to be tough for us whenever we have a successful manager if we don't get over that hurdle.
Yeah, absolutely. Andy, I don't get the impression that there's a wealth of footballing expertise upstairs at Barnsley. So I would maybe suggest that the right move would be to replace Michael Duff if he does go, would be someone who's quite experienced and someone who's happy to have a certain amount of control over the club, especially in terms of recruitment. So my suggestion to you would be Chris Wilder, because he's played a 3-5-2 system throughout, well, certainly in his more recent years, and had great success with that at Sheffield United. And I think there's a real stylistic continuity with the 3-5-2 that Duff used last season.
I can see that. I've got a lot of respect for Chris Wilder, whether he'd want to come or not, and whatever else would happen. Michael going, who knows? But he certainly lives in the area. Lifelong Blade, and it'd be. I think he'd do all right with the people that we've already got around him, and that might make a difference. But what I wouldn't want, if Michael does go, and I keep stressing that, if we were successful in getting Chris Wilder, I don't want him to go in 12 months either, because that another club comes in for him and we go through the same cycle, because it's getting boring. Apart from anything else, it's as boring as hell. So what I want is somebody that's going to stay, that's not going to be rubbish, so we sack them, because we can do that. That we're going to stick with and bring the fans on board, because there's you've seen it on Twitter and elsewhere. There's a lot of Barnsley fans really fed up about this. And it's not happened yet, but are really, really fed up about it, because after, again, the debacle of last season, when there were all sorts of fans forums that were incredibly negative about the board and about the team and the managers and what have you, it's gradually changed. And Neerab has had a lot to do with that. Julian Key particularly has had a lot to do with that. So I don't want us to go backwards. We can't keep repeating history. We want to go forward and continue forward with stability. If Chris Wilder brought that stability, for me, that would be okay. If it's not Chris Wilder, I'd prefer it to be Michael Duff. I thought he was bringing that stability, and who knows? He might do. He stayed at Cheltenham despite other offers. He came to Barnsley when he could have gone elsewhere, higher than Barnsley. But there's lots of things that happen, and if he goes, he goes. What can you do? Maybe Chris Wilder. There's others, but I would personally either like someone internal, or maybe somebody like Chris Wilder that would play a similar structure and a similar style of play. I don't want somebody who passes it to Bartolot at the back and then lobs it forward all the time. I just get fed up. I go to sleep, which is not hard to do when you're my age. I just drop off. We want exciting football. We want continuity of style as well. We had that until a CEO, not Khaled, somebody who acted as CEO, started
Dave
messing
Murphy.
about with. Pardon? No.
After Dave Murphy.
Yeah. I'm not mentioning his name because to cause Joe would implode. I don't want to mention his name, but he weren't a proper CEO. He just changed everything, changed the style of play, changed everything, just on a whim, and he blew it. He absolutely blew it for us. We've just started to get it back, and that's why it's such a big shame. And the tears, I can feel the tear coming. It's just bit by bit. It's not quite there yet, but it's on its way.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. So coming to you then, Joe, any other names that you'd fancy coming in for the Barnsley job?
To be honest, I think it's actually, there's a few. I don't want to, first and foremost, Michael Duff, please stay. If he's still making his mind up, come on, stop and get us up. But if the reports are correct and he is going to go, Chris Wilder would probably be top of my list and our message you gave, just to get your thoughts on it, because I was kind of umming and ahhing trying to figure out whether I thought he might be right for it. I think the great thing with Chris Wilder is he's a Yorkshire lad. He obviously did amazing with Sheffield United. He'd understand that sort of similar, sort of culture, if you like, at Barnsley. Yeah. What do we want to see? Hard work, grit.
I think Just on that point as well, I also think culturally it's probably easier for a Sheffield United legend to come in at Barnsley at Akewell than it would be politically for a Sheffield Wednesday legend to come in at Barnsley, because I think there'd be a bit more tension there, whereas with Sheffield United it's a bit more mellow. So,
well, give one example in the past. In 2000 when we drubbed you in the semi-final, we had Dave Bassett as our manager, who'd been a manager for a number of years at Sheffield United. So it could happen, Gabe. And maybe next year he could get another drubbing. Who knows?
Yeah, I think, yeah. So Chris Wilder definitely would be, I think, top of the list, and probably the same for most Barnsley fans as an obvious choice. There's been Daniel Stendhal mentioned. I think that he's got a lot of Barnsley fans have got a lot of love for Daniel Stendhal. He was incredible in League One. I think one of my concerns may be that obviously when we got to the Championship, it was a bit difficult then, and maybe that style didn't quite work for us there. But in terms of a one season to get us back up and then see how we get on, it could be an option. So there's been a few names mentioned. Darren Moore. I mean, it could be some sort of weird situation if Barnsley were to get promoted with Darren Moore after he's just stopped us from getting promoted. I don't know. That would be quite interesting, wouldn't it, if he did that? And I've always been a big fan of Darren. I think he's a great guy and an underrated coach for me. To pull off what he did with Wednesday in terms of that Peterborough comeback was just something else. Sure. So I won't be totally opposed to him coming in as well. So it's interesting. There's a few potential people you could get in if it does change. But the main thing for me again is just making sure, similar to what Andy said, style. You've got to know what Barnsley fans want. We want, Michael Duff's famous quote, if you like, from the last 12 months was the first thing he said was sweat on the shirt. And that's what we want to see. Hard work, great determination, high press, high energy game, attacking on the front foot at all times. That's what we want to see. We don't want to see slow play, passing it around the back. It might suit some other teams. That's not what we're all about as Barnsley fans. We want to see high energy and hard work. So as long as you've got a gaffer who's down to earth and drills that into the lads, I think you'll be onto a winner.
Yeah, I get that. Although I think that you can't underestimate the sort of tactical and technical nuances of the work that Duff's done. Because one of the things that really impressed me about Barnsley last season, Andy, was the fact that I'm kind of contradicting myself because I thought Luke Connell and Mads Anderson were amazing, but I didn't see at Barnsley last season that one star individual that was like, he'll create something out of absolutely nothing. It felt like the magic really was in the twos and threes, in the combinations, in the relationships that you saw all across the park. And for me, that's top quality coaching. So yes, you're going to want a manager who's got the right values and the right principles, which Michael Duff certainly had, but also they've got to be tactically on point, I think, as well.
It changed the style early on in the season, or it changed it slightly, that we had Luke Thomas playing. So we tended to play three, if you like this, three up front, and a couple in the centre midfield as well as the two wing backs. When Luke Thomas got injured in a freak training accident, he had to change it because we didn't have somebody like him that just runs at defenders and scares the hell out of them. So we had to change it. So we played with two strikers rather than three, and three in midfield rather than two. I personally thought that was better because for me, when Luke was playing, and it weren't about Luke because Luke was on fire, it meant that Norwood and Cole were too far away from each other. We got one in the middle, usually James Norwood, and each of the other two out wide. So they weren't close together. When that changed and we finished up with three and they came closer together, they could feed off each other, and that was a lot better, a lot better, because from what I saw, James Norwood was coaching Devante throughout the game, and well done to him and well done to Devante. It also meant that we brought into the team the guy that's going to be missing, for the first part because he got flipping sent off. And that's, Adam Phillips is such a shame. He's the magician. You said creating something out of nothing. The players a team, and there were a time a few weeks before the season, and when every player on the pitch had scored for us, and they'd all scored, which is not that certainly not that usual for us. Adam Phillips could score from nothing. He could actually score from nothing.
You don't think his relationship with Jordan Williams was quite important to Adam Phillips?
Very. Well, I'll tell you this. You got watch some of his goals. He'd get the ball And when people thinking, well, what's he going to do with this? It's in the back of the net with the goalkeeper saying, is he going to shoot yet? And it's in the back of the net. It was that quick and that direct.
Yeah,
he's brave and creative.
There was also a few where Jordan Williams would fly over to the byline and it'd allow Adam Phillips to get into the box and tuck the ball home as well. So no, I take your point. I mean, he had a great season, didn't he?
For the first time for a long while, in my opinion, for the first time in a long while, when we get a free kick just outside the box or 20 yards, 25 yards out from goal, for a number of years I thought, who's going to take it? Because we haven't got anybody that can take this and make a real difference. A shot. I could sit back and think, well, this one's going. It's either going to hit the wall or it's going over the bar, and that's usually what happened. This season, we've had a whole host of them. All the ones in midfield, plus Larkeshu was a substitute a lot of the time. They could all hit the ball. Didn't matter who were going to take it because you thought any of them could score direct from a free kick just outside the box. And so for the first time, I didn't think, well, that's going over the bar because we've got a free kick. Don't worry too much. I don't even know why you need a wall because it's going over the bar. It didn't. We scored some great goals from free kicks outside the box and not just one person. So for that, it's been really exciting. So many goals from outside the box. Really exciting. Really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming to you then, Joe. I think what's really important is that Barnsley either appoint a 3-5-2 disciple, if you like, or bring in someone that's prepared to stick with that formation, because I think formational continuity is going to be really important because last season's blueprint was so successful. So if we assume that it's going to be 3-5-2 next year for the sake of this conversation, how many more additions do you think are going to be required?
In terms of the team, I guess it depends on how many we're going to lose, doesn't it? I'd like to think at the minute it looks like Mads Andersen's going to go, which I think most Barnsley fans were pretty resigned to the fact we'd probably lose him at some point. I mean, he's been excellent, and to be honest, I was quite surprised he stayed in League One with us. So obviously that's a centre half, but we have already recruited a new centre half, so that's good. It's hard. It depends. If we keep this team together, I think we've got a real chance. It just depends on how many we lose. I don't think we need too much more, personally, at this point. I think just to
too much more. How could you put a number on it? So let's say Mads Andersen does go, but you keep Liam Kitching and Luke O'Connell.
Yeah, I think if we keep them, then it's just firepower. It's just strikers for me. I think that midfield is super strong with Herbie Kane, Luke Thomas. You've got Luke O'Connell in there. It's just Adam Phillips, as we mentioned. It's going to be, with another season under their belt, I think it's really, really strong. So I don't want to change too much. It's just a case of whether we manage to keep the team together. And obviously, as we know, when a manager leaves, if Duff is to leave, that can sometimes knock that as well. So for me, the team, it's just maybe a little bit more firepower. Obviously, we know loan-wise, we were relying on Tedic and from Man City and Max Watters as well. From Cardiff, so we've lost them too, going back on their loans. So we are going to have to recruit up top. Devante and Norwood are great and did a fantastic job last season, but we're going to have a bit more in there. So probably maybe two up there, and then it depends if we lose anyone else.
That they certainly need a little bit of help because I personally think that if James Norwood had started the final against Sheffield Wednesday, I think Barnsley could have won. And I feel like it's going to be really important. I don't know why he didn't start, whether it was a fitness thing or anything else.
I agree with you, by the way, Gabe. I've got to say, there's not much that I want to be critical of Michael Duff, but I would have gone with Norwood as well. I know it's easy to say in hindsight, but you've just got to look at the games the game against Wednesday at our place, and some of the other games around that as well, against the bigger teams in this league. When Norwood started, he just absolutely put everything into it. It's like a steam train.
And he's like a brick.
He blew teams away. So him and then obviously the pace of Cole as well, them two together. I get it because Tedic was really good in the semi-finals against Bolton and he really dealt with their physical presence well. So maybe it was a case of, he's played really well in the semis. It'd be really harsh to drop him. But tactically, I think against Wednesday, I would have personally gone with Norwood. So I do agree with you. But it's all if buts and maybes at this point, I guess.
Of course, yeah. But
I think we need to strengthen at the back as well. If Mads Andersen does go, that's one. But we've also lost Bobby Thomas, who were immense from January onwards. So he's gone. So, I know we got Conor McCarthy hopefully back from injury. It looks like he will be. But I do think we need another commanding centre half. When Mads was injured, and we had our centre halves that will still be there, we didn't look the same. We looked less compact, weaker, if you like, to defend. And I also think, you know, we've lost Larkesh, who's a good played well when he played, and a good substitute for Nicky Cadden. It only takes one injury. And we struggle. Not so bad on the right side, because we got, I think, Barry Cotter, who's still raw, but my goodness, I wouldn't want to get in his way if he came piling forward. I wouldn't want to be a defender getting in his way.
Jordan Williams was a bit raw 12 months ago, so you never know what sort of development we'll see with Cotter.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan's also played at part of a back three and done it all right. You know, I don't think he's as physically strong as some of the others have been, but you know, he reads the game all right. So there's possibilities, but you've got to take into account suspensions. You've got to take into account injuries. So who knows? I think, as Joe said, I think a defender, another defender. I think a central midfield player, because we need one, 2 strikers. I don't, whether that's loan or signings, you know, wherever it's going to be, it's got to be something that can hit the floor. We've got Fabio Jallo. He's a year on, and he looked good at the start of the season. He's a year on. Who knows where he's going to fit into it next season? Hopefully, into the first team arena with a bit of luck, because he looked good at the start of the season. But he needs to, you know, you can't rush some players. You know, you've got to give him the chance, but also protect him as well. So he's a possibility. I don't think he would have let us down if he'd have stayed playing throughout the season. But yeah, for me, four players. But we might lose some. You know, that's only going on the case of potentially losing Mads Anderson, and he might not go. You know, he might not go. He's close to being a legend. It wouldn't take much to be a legend. Get one more season. We're promised that, you know, if we don't go up, it's all there for you. He's not going to lose his stock, is he? It's going to be, you know, people are going to want him. You know, everybody wants him. Who wouldn't? You know, but he's got to remember who gave him a chance, because when he first came, people got on his back because he didn't do that well. And now he's close to being a club legend. But he's also the captain. And at Barnsley, if you become captain, you get sold.
It sounds like we're only letting him go to Barnsley B anyway, or Barnsley A these days, or South, or whatever you want to call them, our old mates at Luton. So
not to upset Luton.
I'm only joking. Luton fans know that I have a bit of banter because they have a load of our players. And
coming on to, I think Andy raised a couple of interesting points there, which I want to explore with you, Joe, which is, firstly, is there a world in which Fabio Jallo has an outstanding pre-season, really rips it up, and then becomes maybe 4th choice striker? So it's only 1 striker that comes in this summer rather than 2?
100%. Serious talent. It's just one of those around, I think, making sure that we don't push him too early. You know, don't put any expectation on his shoulders. Just let the lad enjoy his football and play. You know, give him a chance where we can, maybe sub appearances and stuff like that, which we started to see. And yeah, I think particularly at the start of the season, it'd be a good opportunity for him. I think he's got bags of talent. He's just got to keep his head down, keep working hard. And a few seasons, we'll definitely see him, moving the way up as long as he can continue his development. So yeah, potentially he could easily be a 4th choice for us, or, you know, in and around the team. Like Andy said, he's done well when he came on. Cause defenders are a real problem. So it's just a case of, you know, when do you jump? When do you throw him in a bit more and say, okay, you are now, you know, 100% part of the first team. You're going to be playing every week or having some part. So it could be this season, maybe the season after. Like I say, I won't want to rush him because he's still a young lad. But I think definitely being around the likes of James Norwood will help him an awful lot, because, Norwood is very much, like Andy mentioned earlier, good at directing the lads and bringing that experience and just that calm head as well. You know, just to say, you know, it's okay if you miss a chance or whatever, just let's get going again and keep doing what you're doing. So I think that, I'd like to see more of him this season. I really would. And I hope he gets the opportunity. So that'd be really good.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, what I can sort of see with J-Lo, and maybe to an extent with Luke Thomas, Andy, is they maybe might not start that many games for Barnsley, but they'll be great players to bring on just because they both bring something different. Because J-Lo especially just brings that electricity where literally every time he gets the ball, you do that, you sit up from your seat a little bit. And I think Luke Thomas is the same, and I think he's great I thought he did tremendously off the bench at Wembley. Great offering something different, a bit of ball carrying, something that you've maybe not got in other areas of the team. So those two next season could be possibly your game changers from the bench.
They could be. They could easily be. I mean, at the start of the season, Luke Thomas was on fire, absolutely on fire. Such a shame that he got injured, and he's gradually started to come back. And yet, he's because we changed the system, he's been coming back on as a substitute and making a difference. All I would say to him is have more confidence in your own ability, because what he does and does so well, he drives at defenders. And he frightens, J-Lo does the same, frightens defenders, absolutely frightens them. He goes straight at them. But then Luke tends to, in my opinion, then check back and look for a pass. Just go at it. Do an Adam Hamill if you like. Just go straight at people and have a go. Don't doubt your ability, because he's a player and a half when he's on his game. Just go straight at him and take it all the way. Don't look for an easy option to pass it. Smack it one. He can do it. He can shoot. Just do it. Have the confidence to do it yourself, and he'll not go far wrong.
100% agree with that.
He needs to listen to me. What do I know? What do I know? He needs to listen to me.
Oh, brilliant.
And remember, Reading's coming back to our division. Reading's coming
Go on,
back.
Reading, get your clown.
Come on, lads. Oh, I love Reading.
Andy.
I love the way you handled that situation as well, Andy, because they were going right after you, and then I think the way you responded, like even the Reading fans were like, "Yeah, fair play." So coming to you then, Joe. If Mads Andersen does go, I think it's going to be very difficult to replace him pound for pound. Maybe if you recruit really smartly, you might be able to, but it's going to be tricky. So do you think for this season for Barnsley, it's a case of getting better in terms of being clinical in attack, so improving your front line to almost counterbalance maybe not being quite as strong defensively as last season if Mads does go?
Yeah, possibly. But I think we also have to acknowledge Liam Kitchen has come on leaps and bounds. He's a completely different player. From when we were in the Championship to now, he has grown and developed and worked really hard. Become a Barnsley fan's favourite. And I can't... In previous seasons, we've lost players like Mads, and I've sat there going, like, scratching my head, like, why are we letting him go? Because we have nobody ready to replace him. We have nobody who's ready to step into them shoes. I think Liam Kitchen is that ready. He's obviously playing ready-made replacement, and then you can put a newer lad at the side of him and hopefully build him up, and Kitch can help him come along. So I'm less, as much as I love Mads and I really hope he stays, I am less concerned this time as I have been in the past, if I'm honest. Hopefully I don't come to eat my words, but we've signed. I will, as always. I'll get me. Boris, can you pass that through the screen? That little your clown knows. But
you've got a big one in front of you with Red All Over written on it. Put that on your nose.
We signed Casper Lapato, I think it's how pronounced. I don't know. I'll learn to pronounce it, I'm sure, this season. And I'm not going to claim credit for this, but Craig, who's one of our guys who read all over, says he's done plenty of watching his videos and research, and says he looks like a top talent. So, obviously you can never know until a player's put on a shirt for you and played a few games. But it sounds like, to me, that sounds like the board doing the early recruitment that's needed. Obviously,
that's encouraging, isn't it, Joe? Because it's encouraging that you've almost got your Mads Andersen replacement before Mads Andersen goes, because in one best case scenario would be Mads Andersen stays and you've got Kakper to be back up to Mads Andersen. But then also if Mads Andersen goes, then you've got your player ready firing to just go straight in there. So that's pretty encouraging.
And that's it. And it's similar with the manager stuff. It's all about that. You've got to put the plan in place. We know football. We know how quickly it can change. We know how quickly someone can move on, whether it's player, manager, whatever it is. So it's all about making sure that the board are doing that planning now and getting it ready. So if that's the case in that scenario, which it very much looks like it could be, great. That's what we want to see. You've got Liam Kitchen who's developed. You're then getting a new lad in who hopefully then help to fill that gap if Mads goes. If he doesn't, great. More competition for places. so we just need to see more of that. It's just about making sure we've got that structure in place, and we're always thinking 2 steps ahead, essentially, and that's the only way we're going to make progress over the long term. Because we're going to lose players and we're going to lose coaches. The only consistency at any club is fans, isn't it? And that's it. And we all know that. So the quicker you accept that, I've had to learn to accept that as much as it hurts me, but it makes my life a lot easier now. I have accepted it. Just don't get attached. Don't get attached.
I can see you've come to a place of peace with that, Jay.
It's took me a long time. It's took me a long time. I have to admit.
I can see.
Yeah, I was getting over Paul Heckingbottom for at least 4 years. So, so hopefully I can get over Duff a bit quicker.
Oh dear. At least it's not Leeds this time. So, I want to come to you then, Andy, on the goalkeeping situation. Harry Isted's gone back to Luton. Do you reckon you'll be able to get him back?
Well, apparently we've been in negotiations with him, and as I understand it, I don't know, he's on holiday. So whether it'll be dependent on Michael Duff remaining or not, I don't know. I gather there's other clubs, or at least one other club, interested in him. I would love us to sign Harry. I think he fitted in really well around the squad and with fans, really. And he's a good goalkeeper. I've got absolutely, I just think he's an outstanding goalkeeper. He's still, for goalkeepers, relatively young, but he commands the area. It's been a while since we've had a goalkeeper that commands his penalty area, and he does that. He's not the tallest of keepers, but he commands it. And when the ball's up in the air near him, I'm confident that he's going to get it. He's got little foibles, but I think he's a really good goalkeeper. If Michael goes, I don't know what that means. I just don't know if that'll influence him at all. But I would dearly love him to sign, because I think that would cheer everybody up. It'd certainly cheer me up. We have a fair bit on and off to do with his dad. His dad's a larger than life character. I see him virtually every match up in the East Stand, and he's a lovely guy. And I'm going to say talks a lot of sense, but coming from me, that's not a very high bar. Sorry, Dickie. But yeah, it'd be lovely if he signed. That would help quell a lot of the misgivings that a lot of fans have got, some fans have got. So yeah, love him to stay.
Yeah, well, let's hope that's the case. I wanted to talk to you, Joe, about Luca Connell, because for me, I rate this lad incredibly highly. I think Liam Kitchen has had an amazing season, incredibly unlucky to be on the losing side at Wembley. Mads Anderson, couldn't argue with you at all for him being Player of the Year, Nor's even. But for me, Luca Connell was the standout last season, and I think he could captain Ireland at a World Cup one day. I really think he's that good. So just talk to us about the season that he's had, and are you hopeful that you'll be able to keep him?
Incredible. Absolutely unbelievable. Yeah, it's just been so good this season. The way he gets the ball, tackles, best tackle in the team. He's brilliant at tackles, and then he just turns really quickly and gets us on the front foot. He's just so vital to what we do. Scored a few amazing goals as well. I remember the one against Peterborough, brilliant finish, some cracking goals. I think the only thing that was obviously gutting is in the playoff final where he gets that chance. And if you were asking me, Joe, do you want it on a plate? Who's the fairy tale?
Let it go.
It's Luca Connell. And
They played 70 minutes with 10 men. Because they're, in my view, not the best officiating. We played 70 minutes with 10 men. They run their blood to water, including Luca, and he got there a few yards out, and in my view, his legs gave way. It just could. I don't know what happened, but you can't complain with somebody who's run his blood to water and expect him to be like a new, like as fresh as a flipping daisy after all that. Let it go.
No, Andy, I 100% agree with you. I'm not being critical in any way. I'm just simply saying that it's just gutting, because it was just, I would have loved it for him, to get that moment and to do it. And it's one of those things, isn't it? I'm not anyway critical. The best player all season.
I also think you'll find that Adam Phillips is the best tackler as well. Ask Wednesday fans.
We'll not get into that. Could be here a long time. But no, I think Luca Connell is we could talk. he'll be going to be going better things. I just hope it's with us this season. The usual thing is I hope he gets us promoted and then gets the season in the Championship, and then he's going to play in the Premier League. So we could talk about the one key moment in a game or whatever, or different moments, but he's going to be up there. I can't see him, like you say, Gabe, not going on to have a fantastic career, captaining Ireland, and also going on to play in the Premier League. So for me, he's got a massive career ahead of him, and I'm really happy that we get to have a bit of that at Barnsley. I don't think we'll have too much longer. Hopefully a season at least.
Another
Not
year.
trying to sell him off, but I'm also very realistic at the minute, considering what's happening with what's happening. So yeah, he's going to be fantastic for him, and wish him well next season. Hopefully, he can do really well for us.
Yeah, we spoke about combinations at Barnsley last season, how important they were, and none more so really than that left side between Liam Kitching, Nicky Cadden and Herbie Kane. Just how important, Andy, is that dynamic going to be next season if you can keep all three at Oakwell?
I think that's one of the things that you've seen at Barnsley this season under Michael Duff, that those combinations of 2 and 3, usually 3, is all over the pitch, absolutely all over the pitch. On the right hand side, there's the stuff with Adam and with one of the strikers, whichever one's playing on that side, and Jordan Williams. And on the left side, you've seen it with Herbie, especially as Herbie moved when we changed the formation and had 3 in midfield as opposed to 2. He played generally, although it is fluid, it tends to play more on the left, with Cadden going past him, or Cadden holding back, or even Herbie holding back, and Liam Kitchen scaring everybody by setting off with the ball from a centre half position and stopping when he run out of pitch, basically, where everybody falling by the wayside.
Rumours have it he's still running past Cheltenham defenders from first home game at season.
Aye. So there's and the combinations of the 3 at the back, the combinations of 3 midfielders together, interchanging and moving about. But yeah, those three on the left make a big difference, as it does all over the pitch. So that's the Duff effect. You can't say anything different. That's what he's brought. Instead of individual players, isolated individual players, they're playing as groups. Pass and move, playing in triangles. It's at times, it's absolutely wonderful to behold. We're not so,
Yeah, absolutely. Joe, how are you feeling in terms of depth? Because when I asked you in terms of number of additions, you're maybe saying just a bit more firepower, probably in terms of the first 11 for Barnsley, and obviously you're going to need a goalkeeper as well. But are you feeling like the squad as it is has got enough depth for what you're going to need next season, or are you feeling like you might need 1 or 2 more to come into it?
Yeah, a couple of loans won't do any harm. I think it's I'm not a massive fan of massive squads, because I think that unless you're at the top level and you're going to have all those players in all those competitions where you play in Champions League and the likes of that, at our level, I know we've still got certain competitions that we've got to play in, and there's a lot of games, but I just think that a tight-knit squad can get everybody thinking they've got an opportunity here. I think you get too many, it can create some sort of negativity in the dressing room. So I like the sort of level of squad we had last season. With obviously the loans, like I mentioned, so a couple more loans would be good. But I'm fairly happy. I mean, going back to the goalkeeper situation, Harry Isted, obviously, really hope he signs for Barnsley. But it's worth not forgetting that Brad Collins, if unfortunately Isted doesn't sign for Barnsley, as much as I love him to, if he decides to go elsewhere, wish him all the best. Brad Collins is a quality keeper, and we can't forget that. And we've got 2 quality keepers at the club. So if Isted does decide to go elsewhere, then I'd just hope that we could possibly get Collins on a longer deal, because I think he's got a year left, Andy, possibly. I might be wrong on that, but I think he's got a year left. So, potentially there's an easier option than having to start from scratch and go find someone else, because you possibly have that. But like I said, hope Irish signs. Yeah, I'm fairly happy with the squad. It's just about replacing people if they're going to leave. So I just hope behind the scenes we've got a really good steer on who's wanting to stay, who might be tempted, and who might be off. And then if you can do that, hopefully you can start getting some replacements in early doors. But I'd like to think we're going to have a bit more stability this summer than we've had in previous summers, and that could be key to Barnsley's success next year.
Let's hope that's the case. Any bright young talents coming through, Andy, that I should be keeping an eye on? Because obviously Fabio Giallo's shown a lot of potential. Anyone else behind him or near to him on the conveyor belt?
Well, Jallo's certainly the one that catches the eye. Some of the others that we've had in and out with injuries. What's his name, Joe? It's gone from me. It's gone.
Matty Wolf, possibly. He's been out with injuries.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's who you're thinking of, but
No, striker. Yeah, but Matty Wolf. I've forgotten about Matty Wolf.
Oh, the lad who's on loan at Scunthorpe.
Yeah.
Aidan Marsh. Aidan Marsh.
Aidan.
Yeah, Aidan Marsh. Yeah. Marshy,
yeah. We've talked to him. Oh, it's age. Aidan Marsh is he can run and run and run. Got a lot of time for him, and he's Barnsley through and through. It'd be a good addition if he can keep fit and if he can keep developing. So I do think Aidan might well be one to watch. Jallo, as you said, Matty Wolf has just been very, very unlucky with injuries. So has Josh Benson. Flipping heck, he just comes back from injury and he gets injured again.
I forgot about Josh Benson. That's
I felt so bad for him at final because he comes on. He was playing really well. To come on, Adley. I've hardly played all season to come on play that well, and then he got injured. And I'm like, oh no, not again. So that lad is really unfortunate with injuries at the minute.
See, people see him quite rightly as a central midfield player, but there were a few times in the second half of the season when he back from injury where he filled in at right wing back, and he did not look out of place there at all. So the kid can play. Yeah, the kid can play.
Because he was supposed to be quite an enigma in midfield, supposedly. So to have him as a right wing back, where you've got your Jordan Williams sort of up and down kind of mentality, that does surprise me a little bit.
Enigma. It's a long word for a brummie. Flipping it.
I never thought I'd be insulted for my dialect by a Yorkshireman.
Give me back, Dave. Don't be having any of this.
A countdown conundrum. It's a conundrum, isn't it?
Just to be fair, Yorkshire is my favourite county, so I don't mean any malice by that at all. I absolutely love you guys.
No, I think what you mean is South Yorkshire, not just Yorkshire. South Yorkshire. There's a difference. Because West Yorkshire sometimes is called East Lancashire. Don't go down the West Yorkshire bit. South Yorkshire. In fact, just Barnsley, really, when I think about it.
Just Barnsley.
They might register it. But yeah.
Should we go back to the Josh Benson point?
Yeah. I thought he did really. Joe might have a different view because sometimes he talks sense and sometimes he don't. I thought he played really well when he came on. He's sometimes a substitute, sometimes starting at right wing back because he can pick out a pass and he can hold on to the ball and play. I thought he did all right. It didn't look out for me. It didn't look out of place. I don't think it'd be his natural position. I don't think it's a place he particularly wanted to play, but it didn't show. He was asked to play it and he played it. And he did. I thought he did all right in it. I don't think we need him to do it anymore when he's injured. But when he comes back, I think that he could easily play in the centre midfield with any of the others. The others kept him out of the team because they were playing so well. But he often came on for any of them. All three of your Phillips, your Kane, and your Connell had come off and put Josh Benson on. And you didn't see it drop. So he could play instead of any of those three and did. So. Don't lose out on him, and he's got a shot and a half on him as well. So hopefully he can recover from his injury. I can't see him being ready anywhere near for the start of the season, not even close. But we'll see, won't we? It's a long season, as we know.
Yeah. Do you feel like, Joe, as much as it's tough for Barnsley, losing a manager and having to sort of rebuild, I suppose, in that sense, and not quite sure where the club is at in terms of the sort of footballing operationalness to sort of have that continuity. There's obviously a question mark there, but I also think next season's an opportunity for Barnsley as well, Joe, because
massively.
Yeah, because you've lost Ipswich and Plymouth Argyle, who got close to 100 points last year. Sheffield Wednesday got 96. They're out of the picture. So really, and I actually think Wigan coming down, they've got an 8-point deduction. Blackpool, a few question marks there in terms of off the field. Reading, losing almost their entire squad. They're probably going to need another 15,
potential
20.
points deduction, I think, from the sounds. I mean, I might be wrong. Is that just charges?
So
Is it?
Wigan definite 8 points
Is
deduction.
it? Sorry if I'm lack of information there, but I thought there was
Yeah,
some
no
stuff
problem
in
at
there
all.
as well.
No, it's 8.
Yeah, so the general point being, it's going to be difficult for the 3 clubs going down to really threaten the automatic spot. So, yeah, do you just feel like next season's an opportunity?
Yeah, like you say, obviously the teams going down compared to the teams going up, I think there is a big difference. I hate to see teams getting points deducted and stuff like that, and situations like that. It's sad when clubs are at risk, so I do wish those clubs all the best. But for us, it looks like it's going to be a much easier season, and I think you can't sugarcoat that. Look at the 3 teams that have gone up. I said last season, there are 4 amazing teams, us being one of them: Ipswich, Plymouth, and Sheffield Wednesday, and finished on some incredible points. You've got to say Barnsley have got a real opportunity. It's just about, as long as we keep this squad together and we do, we have a decent team together, I think we've got a real chance to go up. So that's what I really hope will happen. I don't know much about the situations around what's happening in Wigan and Reading. I've not really read up on that, so sorry if I've not.
Yeah, no worries.
Don't know what's happened with that, but it just sounds like there's some difficulties there, and also in terms of Blackpool. I think Blackpool will be strong. I still think Blackpool will be strong. Teams in our league, Charlton, expect them to be strong. Bolton again, really expect them to be strong, especially if they're keeping Ian Evatt. So I think there's still some tough games, some teams that are going to compete with us who will be thinking the same as us. But I do definitely think Barnsley have got a real opportunity to do well next season. I think that for any manager coming in, there's a very good potential for a promotion on the CV there. So I think that for me would be enough. I'd look at it and think, yeah, as long as I can get the backing and I don't lose too many of my key players that's already at the club, I can sign a couple, implement my style. I think Barnsley have got a real chance, at least at the top 6, but potentially automatic as well.
Are you excited about next season, Andy, even though Duff might be going?
Yeah, I thought there's some good games this last season. Some really good games. Some good teams. Teams that often don't get mentioned. Although they get a negative press, Wickham I thought were a good side. Lincoln and Exeter particularly, I thought they were superb sides when they played us. That at home at Oatwell, they both taught us a lesson. I actually think that Exeter taught us a lesson at Exeter as well. So there's lots of good sides there. For me, I'm looking forward to the season. We don't seem to have much of a break. It's about from the playoff final to starting pre-season. It's about a month, isn't it, or something like that. So, for me, I keep saying if Michael leaves, we need to be on with that process. We can't be waiting 4 and 6 weeks to be able to appoint a manager. We need somebody, whoever it's going to be, whether it's somebody external like your Chris Wilders, who would have some input into transfers, but wouldn't have total control, because we don't do total control for people. And after the debacle with our pretend CEO, we won't want one person to have total control, to be honest. But to have a strong input to what sort of players and what sort of positions and type of player he would want. It'd be a good replacement. Or for me, somebody internal as well. I would honestly not rule that out. And if that happened, I wouldn't. But it needs to be decided early so that it can move forward, rather than we're wasting time. We're not wasting time to get the pre-season up and running and players tried out and tested, and bringing players in, because otherwise players will have gone elsewhere by the time we get out of the blocks. So we need to, it needs to be sorted out, if indeed it needs to happen at all.
Yeah, well, hopefully it will be sorted out, and Barnsley can really push on from what was achieved last season, even without Michael Duff. Folks, such a pleasure to chat Barnsley with you this evening. Joe, just coming to you, talk to us about what you do at Red All Over and what your plans are for content in 2023.
Yeah, well, Red All Over kind of, so Barnsley FC obviously mainly, but we like to, we might be a little bit biased towards our club, but we do like to acknowledge other clubs, don't we, Andy? And we have a good bit of banter with him. So it's a light-hearted, fun show. We try to keep it light-hearted. Okay, we talk about the football and stuff like that. The reason Andy's got his clown nose on is because Wednesday fans turned him into a clown after we lost in playoff final after he said we'd beat him. So, we're all we like to have a bit of fun. Obviously, love talking about our team, but love to talk about your teams as well and have a laugh with you. So we're on YouTube, Red All Over. You can find us there. Yes, content again this season. We'll just be talking about games, talking about football, having a bit of a laugh together. We have a prediction competition. If you want to predict Barnsley scores, don't matter what team you support, come and predict them. Let us know what you think to your team. Let us know what you think to the games and the results and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, we just love it, don't we, Andy? We love it.
Yeah, it's always something to look for. Last season, we had 299 different predictors, which kept me off the streets, kept me nice and busy. I've retired. I didn't realise I was going to still be busy doing that. Loads and loads of predictions. It's been nice because people make the predictions on the show and then talk about why they made the prediction and what they think about the previous match, what they think about this coming match. I always try, as does others, to try and reply to it all because I think that's engagement. And if we're not going to engage with people, then what are we doing? That's why you make YouTube shows. That's why you want people to engage with you, and you want to engage back and have a bit of banter, have a laugh, have a bit of insult of each other. I've had a bit of that.
Just the 200,000 views on the Wednesday fans.
I think you'll see it's 215,000 views.
Sorry, I didn't want to undermine the achievement of being turned into a clown by Sheffield Wednesday fans.
That's the pinnacle. That's what you really aspire to, I think.
Come on, Reading. Oh, I love Reading. I love Reading. I really, really like Reading fans. They were. I know we had a laugh about me. Said that they were going to bottle it, as you well know, the season before, and they didn't. It were us. But they were magnificent. To get a bit of stick, but it were all. What I did like is that there were no nastiness to it from the Reading fans. They were a whole, and I responded in like it's all banter and good, good humour, and I thought that was absolutely wonderful. So well done to them, and I'm looking forward to it. And Johnny Hunt as well from Reading, from Reading show. So really chuffed that I'm not chuffed that they're relegated, but I'm chuffed that we're in the same division as them.
Oh, yeah. Well, hopefully you can have some good matchups.
Wigan not so. No, I'm only joking. I don't care.
Right. I think we'll leave that there. Listen, thanks to you for watching at home. Many thanks to Andy Symcox and Joe Beardsall from the excellent Barnsley YouTube channel, Red All Over. Go check it out. Some wonderful content on there. This has been EFL Debate, the Barnsley Summer Deep Dive, and we'll see you again very soon.